but it almost feels like Google and OpenAI had a baby. And you're just playing this middle ground that is so valuable and needed.
It is.
We're living through it right now, what Peter Grant calls
the biggest opportunity that we've ever seen in our lifetime in technology.
As Chief Revenue Officer at U.com, he's going up against giants like OpenAI and Google.
And you're competing in one of the most competitive markets. You're up against giants.
He's building at the pace of change while holding on to the values he learned from working with three of tech's greats: Tom Siebel's precision, Marc Benioff's storytelling, and Rishi Khosla's philosophies.
Find someone that's exceptional. Be a sponge to them.
In this episode, we cover a whole lot, including how to hire SEAL-Team-Six-level talent, run a go-to-market motion in the age of AI, and build products that stand on truth.
You can't paper over the cracks of a poor product.
And the reality of building?
This is a marathon, run it a sprint.
All right, let's get into it.
Peter, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. And you've led go-to-market teams through some of the biggest, most monumental shifts in technology, including cloud and now AI. How does this feel in comparison?
This era that we're in now, I wish I was 25 years old and starting my career all over again. So I'm very envious of the younger generation coming through, for the reason this is the biggest opportunity that we've ever seen in our lifetime in technology. The impact is having, the speed is permutating, just the consumerization. If you look at ChatGPT, the speed, 100 million users in 60 days or less, now 800 million active users, weekly active users that they actually have. It's just pretty incredible. And obviously you're seeing that consumerization of coming from the consumer going into the enterprise as well. We've never seen anything like it. And it's obviously not just ChatGPT, as many other companies have come alongside that, but that is really, really exciting, right? So they're market makers for you, which is great from a marketing point of view. You don't have to waste your marketing dollars educating the market. Why? You just have to spend your time now on differentiation. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. If I go back to when I got into the information technology space back in 1996, I joined Siebel, and Siebel was going from mainframe at that era to client server. So we would say, client server, this is a big shift where computers we put in the hands of the end user and everything else as well. And we created a category, we created CRM. So Tom Siebel was a genius at doing that. And he realized when he was at Oracle that it was difficult to see your customer information. He wanted that 360-degree view. We did that. We dominated that market. We created that category. We went from literally $0 to $2 billion in 4 years and a few hundred staff to 8,000 staff. So you learned discipline in how to do processes, and execution was absolutely flawless. And you're right, I went to cloud. It wasn't called cloud back then. In 1999, when Salesforce launched, I joined just at the end of 2002 in the UK, but it was actually utility computing. And Marc was a genius marketer, and still is, about telling that story about how to do it. And things were a bit slow to begin with to make that transition, go from client server onto cloud. But look at them now. It's absolutely the gorilla in the market space. But this is so much quicker. This is unprecedented. If you take digital transformation, Google took 5 years to get to 100 million users. Now, obviously, the internet has been an accelerant, or the World Wide Web, for doing that. But even TikTok took 9 months to get to 100 million. So what you've seen with GPT has been pretty incredible. And the speed it's moving at now, I think in the Valley, there were 500 net new startups in Q1 this year in generative AI. So if you put yourself on the other side of the fence, right, you're the buyer. Yeah. It's really hard to know who to go with. And that's the biggest problem there. One, the speed, the change, the new people coming into the market, and what is your key differentiation that buyers want to go with you.
And I have to ask before we go down so many different paths, what was it like to work with Tom Siebel?
Tom's a legend.
He is.
Yeah, he's an absolute legend. I learned so much. So I've worked for Tom twice. When I was at Siebel, I didn't report into Tom. I was a baby sales rep. I was like 27, 28 years old, and I was running accounts in the UK. But more recently, I was at C3, and I was on Tom's management team, and I ran the US and APAC for Tom. And it's probably one of the best educations and learnings I've ever had from one of our industry's most prolific entrepreneurs. But it was hard. It's tough. Tom is he drives, he expects results, he rewards you incredibly well as well, but he's highly professional. I don't think I've ever worked with anybody who has so much attention to detail, so professional, so focused on his mission and what he wants to do. And what's really interesting about Tom, he's obviously phenomenally successful, but he still has that appetite today in his 60s. He's still in the office early. He works really late at night, very focused on every single deal that's there, every email that goes out, every single proposal, every contract that has his name on it. Tom has touched that. So it's pretty incredible. Yeah, it was a great learning curve for me.
That is incredible. Just pure ownership of everything. And I do have to say a huge congratulations. You just announced your Series C, $100 million that at a $1.5 billion valuation, which is just incredible. And the growth that you've experienced at U.com. Now, I'm sure there's principles that you've taken from Tom now into your leadership. I'd love to hear a little bit more around how you're thinking about hiring and growing and really developing talent now in this environment.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. It was a team effort. We have an amazing team at U.com, led obviously by Dr. Richard Sosha, one of the leading NLP research scientists in the world, and Brian McCann, one of the leading AI research scientists as well. So we've actually gravitated around them. They are two of the pioneers in this space. So we feel very lucky to be able to work with Richard and Brian. But we have an amazing executive team and engineering team that actually made that happen. From Tom, I think one of Tom's other key skills is basically hiring amazing people. Yeah, not everybody has the talent to see what good looks like and what great people are, but Tom literally, what we in the Britain we'd say, plays in the Premiership. Yeah, lots of people think things are good, but unless you've operated at that level, you don't really know what it's like. So the way akin to explain in the US would be SEAL-Team-Six.
Okay.
Right. So I always say that, I like doing things early. I'm not a big company guy. I'm that 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 guy. That's when I sort of come in. When you're looking to scale, you've got product market fit, you need to pour some fuel on the fire and really execute what you're trying to do. So the hiring process is really important. So I will basically look for your sales skills, your sales knowledge, your sales execution, your customer advocacy, your leadership potential that you actually have. And the way we do that, we have a very quick fire interview. We have a set of questions that we take you through and we mark you. We actually use AI now to do the marking with me to make sure there's no bias. And I've loaded all the perfect answers that I'm looking for and everything else. If you get through that, you then come back and you do a panel.
Okay.
And on the panel, we're looking for a slide on yourself to see you're a cultural fit, what you like to do outside of work. We're looking for your career achievements. So think about a timeline of since you started your career, the companies you've worked at and what you've achieved at those particular companies, club trips you've been on, president's clubs you've made, the type of logos you've sold to, the deals that you've sold, the personas that you've sold to. So I'm looking to see you're a fit for selling our type of applications.
Yeah.
Lots of people have done infrastructure deals, but they're not the right people for us saying productivity or applications, for example. No disrespect to them, but it's not necessarily what we're looking for in our particular space. We'll then ask you to pitch back our company to us.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah. So, and then because it's U.com, you can use U.com to help you put the pitch together.
Truly.
So we want to see that you can actually use the application itself. And I should say, even before you get to the first interview, we will give you a free license of U.com. And on U.com, we're quite unique. You can do training classes that take you from fundamentals all the way through to mastery. So it's an investment you have to make in yourself. Yeah.
I'm sure you weed people out in that process too.
Yeah, we weed people out, but hopefully people say, this product's amazing. I want to sell it. And this is where I can sell it. And I can make myself successful and therefore make you successful as well. So yeah, that's why we do it in the process. People listening to this would probably go, this is a big lift, right? Remember, we're looking for SEAL-Team-Six here.
Yeah.
Right. So we want you to put.
I like football. We can go Prem League.
Okay. And the league. Okay. So then you would do that and you pitch back U.com. Then you have to demo the product as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the obvious 30, 60, 90-day plan.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, back to your first question, is people often put what they can achieve in 90 days. And I always say you need to achieve that in 30 days. Right, the speed this market is moving at, the change and everything else as well, the competitive pressures that are coming, the decision cycles are a lot faster. We have to work quicker and faster, right, in what we do. So we put them all the way through that, and then we do the reference check, the back channel, and everything else as well. And then and that's a team effort, the panel. So they're talking to product, customer success, their peers. We're making sure that we think they're the right fit. And ultimately, can they be successful if they come and join? It's a big investment we're making.
Yeah.
They used to say, a mishire with sales reps is going to cost you $1 million. By the time it takes to hire, bring them on board, the ramping, realize you've made a mistake, pipeline loss, effort, and everything else as well. So the old adage of basically hire slow, fire fast, is what we're definitely akin to. But then once they're on board, you need to put them into training, you need to put them into enablement and everything else as well. So we've actually invested, I'd say, ahead of that for the size of company we are, with some amazing RevOps leader. Must give Spencer a shout out here, and Ben Cotton and our enablement team.
Shout out Ben and Spencer.
Yeah, exactly, right. But they are doing a phenomenal job for our sales kickoffs, for our certification that we do. Then everybody has to go through certifications. I have this mantra: train hard, fight easy. So really understanding our product. So going back into what I look for in salespeople, they got to have a really good understanding of the product, right, inside out. They've got to be able to articulate it. The good thing here is you're selling a product that you use every single day that makes you productive.
Truly.
So you should be a domain expert.
Yeah.
Right?
And you should be passionate about it.
Exactly.
I love that philosophy of going through the process, because if somebody falls in love with the product, inevitably they're going to be super passionate when they're selling it.
Exactly.
Quick pause, because it's event season and this is a game changer. At GTM Fund, our portfolio companies, our LP operators companies, we're all planning events right now, as I'm sure you are. Sales kickoffs for next year, company retreats, conferences, you name it. It's a lot of work. Planning these company events has been made simple though with BoomPop's AI-powered platform and event planners. They handle everything from venues to experiences, so you can curate an incredible event without being bogged down by the planning process itself. And as a listener of GTM Now, you're eligible for an exclusive discount, full service event planning for just $99 per person. Terms and details are on the webpage in the show notes, which is boompop.com/GTM fund. Head there to start planning your next offsite.
So you have to be very analytical as well. So we look for people there, especially in this particular space. It's pretty technical, some of the stuff we're doing, but you got to be driven by numbers and not by, emotion and everything else as well. Got to be really good at forecasting. We have to run our business on commits. Not wishes and stuff. And so we need to make sure that people are professional, analytical in the way they assess their deals and everything else as well. We look for people that are humble. The most important thing, actually, I should say, we look for people that are trustworthy and honest.
Yeah.
So a lot of our business that we've found so far in the accelerate we've done over the last 18 months is winning net new accounts. But the growth in the existing accounts, I think last quarter, our net retention rate was 169%. Which is phenomenal. It's off the charts. You think gold standard is 130, good is 100%. So that's really good. That means people are buying their few hundred licenses or API calls, and they're constantly increasing what they're doing with us, right? So it's important then you're an advocate for the customer. So we don't want to know this drive-by selling. We want people that really care about customer success, and they put the customer at the heart of everything they do. Right, and they fully understand the implementation process, right? What it takes to make that customer successful, and you're going to be with them on the journey. And I know if you're a buyer, you're going to look at me and say, do I trust you to make me successful, right? Does that person, that rep, have influence inside the company that if it does go wrong, because it will go wrong, not everything's perfect, that they will get the right people on my account to make sure that I'm going to deliver against my MBOs and make sure I'm going to be successful if I make a decision to go with you.com. Because I was taught at a very young age that buying decisions are a very lonely decision. So you need to make sure you're de-risking everything for them and you're going to make them successful. So those are just some of the tenets that we look for when we're hiring. And then what we do in the enablement, we obviously follow all that through as well. So I think that's so important. If you look at building tech companies, there are four main things, right? One is the people. Doesn't matter who you are, what you do, right? You've got to have amazing people on the bus with you, and you have everybody rowing in the right direction. So everybody's focused on a plan and a vision that the founders have, and a category creation that you're going to go after, and they all believe in it. They may not agree with it sometimes, but they have to agree to disagree, but then commit to what you're effectively going to do. No, you don't want Dennis Robbins on the bus. Number two is you got to be in a really amazing market space, right? So is you going to dominate the world? You're going to dominate the US? That's irrelevant, right? But it's got to be dynamic. It's got to be moving, right? It's got to have, it's got to be buyers in that market and everything else, right? Number three is you've got to have an amazing product, and I think that's even you asking your question earlier about changes. I'd argue you can't paper over the cracks of a poor product anymore. What you're seeing changes in go-to-market are these PLG motions. So look at Lovable, look at Cursor, right? Look at their growth they've had in such a short space of time because they've been so focused on that product experience. And that's my thing about consumerization, coming from the consumer. That's why I like a mix of consumer and enterprise product people, because they understand what the consumer, that instant sugar hit you have with enterprise side is about that pain, that vitamin, not a vitamin, excuse me, painkiller you're providing to them. So they say, yeah, I need this. I have to buy it, right? I have to find budget for it. I have to replace this existing system. But I think that's really important from a product point of view. But if you have the right people in the right market, you will make the product work eventually. But eventually, now, instead of being months and quarters, is now literally days and weeks. Right, the speed you have to iterate at. And the final thing is timing. Get in your market, right? And in this market with Gen AI, everybody's investing in it, right? If you look at the latest MIT report in the last 18 months, is it 30 to 40 billion has been invested in generative AI?
It's incredible.
Yeah, whether it's been successful, we can come on to that in a moment, right? But yeah, so I think that's why people are so important. That's why people should spend a lot of time investing in the right people, right, and not making mistakes there, because they will drive your business forward, right? And then giving the freedom to do that. So from a leadership point of view, I would say set a mission for them, find the right people, let them know what their individual role is in that mission, then let them go and execute. And as a CRO, most CROs have marketing, they have sales, they have customer success.
Yeah.
But you never find a CRO is good at all of them, I don't believe. People may disagree with me, but I carry it through the sales side.
Yeah.
Then I learned the customer success side. Yeah, marketing, yes, of course I'm aware of it, but I always hire the most amazing customer success person. Doug Duke and I have worked together for the last 3 decades now. He's incredible.
That's incredible.
So we've got the same person on the team. I trust him, right? And now Caddy doesn't work for me, but Caddy's come on our team. She's incredible as well. So you just have these really, really good people, really good at their job, and then we just have to operate together as a team.
Well, first of all, that's incredible. I love the framework of just laying it out in terms of the 5 areas. And one thing you mentioned was their ability to go deep on the product and understand the product. In turn, the utilization and adoption of AI for personal use and just the ability to learn, because you've emphasized the speed at which everything is changing, is so, so crucial. How do you actually gauge in the interview process itself how adept people are at learning AI and adopting new technologies, not just your product, but AI overall, to anticipate all of the different needs that they'll have in their AE function?
Yes,
leadership function.
it's a really good question. It's actually funny. The interview process has actually changed in the last 10 months, because when they came in before, they were doing basic prompt engineering.
Right.
Yeah. And we go, oh, that's cool, because it was even new to us. That's really good. And then somebody changed our mind when they started using Python code, and they started doing some really sophisticated stuff and workflows with U.com. And that was a sales guy who does not have a technical background. He's actually a poet by training. But he blew us away. And then we started to realize that in the market, most of the salespeople coming in actually have a pre-sales type background or quite technical. And so to answer your question specifically, we're just seeing in the sophistication of what they're doing with the agents and the type of use cases that they're solving with them. So it's a tip to anybody if you're interested in U.com, don't come and say about auto write my email, don't create this content, because we've seen all of that. That's old hat in what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff we're doing is these agentic flows, going really deep, doing a lot of deep research, finding different use cases in certain verticals that these agents can solve for you now that previously you couldn't solve before. So to answer your question specifically, is the AEs that understand that and work back from the customer experience, and then say, okay, how would I solve this with AI? And then they use the AI for ideation. So I think I call it like pseudo intelligence. You're using a different version of yourself, right? But can go much more deeper, much quicker, and bring back information for you to help you ideate. Right. So we use a product we have called ARI, which stands for Advanced Research and Insights. But I will use that not just to go out and scour 1,000 websites in 5 minutes and come back and give me this very comprehensive report. I will start saying, now you're a CMO. But I'd actually start from the beginning. Let's do the ideation. You're a lean canvas. This is an idea I have. Go off and research it. Who would be the ideal customer profile to sell it to? Who would be the persona? What would be the value prop and everything else as well? What's the competitive landscape look like, et cetera, et cetera? And they come back and they give you some various forms of ideation. Go, oh, this is pretty cool. Now write me a product requirement document, a PRD for engineering for building this particular product.
Yeah.
And then focus on these personas. If I agree they're the right personas, it will go off and do all that for me, right? Let's go, oh, this is really good, right?
Yeah.
Now write me a go-to-market plan, right? That backs up doing all of this as well. And then go off and write me a go-to-market plan and what geographies we should go to and what accounts. They actually pick out certain accounts. I say, now write me a press plan. Now it will go out and it will find the journals, it will find the journalists for me, it will come back with the messaging, the copy for it, and everything else as well. And I say, fine, now write me pricing and packaging. I can do all that in a couple of hours. I think about build a whole business case and ideation. So that's the sophistication we're looking for now.
Yeah.
And then now you put yourself in the head of somebody in a healthcare company or a travel company or a finance company, right? And they need to walk in their shoes to see how they would use the AI to dramatically improve their productivity.
Okay. So it sounds like it's really that sophistication gauge that you're looking for around. What type of sophistication do they have in the interview process for building and thinking agentically?
Yeah, exactly. We're looking towards, this super intelligent enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Step back from there's AGI, artificial general intelligence as well. We're not there yet, but you got to, if you can dream it, we will get there eventually. The technology's coming and everything else. I think one of the big things that we realized last year is there is a lot of AI illiteracy. So we say people are not being trained. They've just been given the tools, whatever the tools may be, whether it be us or one of our competitors or whatever, but they're not embedding the training. They're not investing in people to actually do it. And that's why we partner with this company called Pair that we've now embedded inside that trains you on all the LLMs and everything you can do. And the most important thing is this role-based training. So no, I'm a CRO of a tech company. It gives me specific challenges to do and how I should use the technology to overcome those challenges really quickly. As an example, have an outage, need to alert the customers or an upset customer, whatever it may be. Now go and do a mind map on your whiteboard. So go and draw a mind map on the whiteboard is how I'm going to answer this particular customer challenge. It says then take a picture of it and then tell the LM to write an email to your boss to get approval for what the actions are. I never knew you could do that 12 months ago.
I love that. I especially love that because it solves for the gap between ideation and execution, which is one of the biggest ones in AI. Like a lot of companies, what they're doing for enablement is they're creating these environments where AEs can create their own agents. And then you can share and see what other agents people are building, which is great. Don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. But a lot of the time you still have that ideation gap, whereas you're actually showing them the ideation process and then the execution is.
Exactly. It's going back to the MIT report.
Yeah.
So 30 to 40 billion spent,
Mhm.
95%. So didn't have an ROI, right? Which is frightening.
It is right.
Yeah. And it's for the reasons you've just stated, right? So number one reason is lots of the use cases were focused on the front office, on sales and marketing, but they were point solutions, right? And they weren't being measured or they weren't being trained to get the full value from what they could actually do. They were doing very basic content creation, email creation, and basic account research as well. The second reason is they weren't embedded into the workflows, to your point, can be fully agentic in what they could actually do. And I'll give you an example where we're doing that with a customer in a moment. And the third reason, which is really interesting, is that most of them were failing because they weren't working with domain experts. So they were taking APIs or taking GPTs and deploying them, but they weren't really doing proper, what we would call private RAG, private retrieval augmented generation over your data, getting highly accurate results, or they weren't having an outside view of the web as well for their agents. And they were failing in the projects to basically deliver, which was disenfranchising the end users as well, especially when you had the hallucinations and the inaccuracies. So that customer I was talking about is actually the Telegraph. So the Telegraph is one of the UK's leading newspapers.
Yeah.
We're just rolling out to 1,000 everybody at the Telegraph. But the two main use cases are really interesting. They have 500 journalists. And what we're doing is we're doing a legal fact checker. And we're doing a legal checker and a fact checker. So legal checker is basically, are you writing this article in lines with the editorial policies of the Telegraph? Now, normally most humans have been trained on that. We have an employee guide handbook. Yeah. But it's very specific to their journalism based on their political beliefs and what they can and what they can't say and everything else as well. So we're having to retrain the LLM, change the guide so it can be interpreted by the LLM, but do it all live whilst they're writing so it can be checked. So it's not holding up the journalists. So that's one thing. The second thing is it's a fact checker. So we have a web index. So we can go out live to the web with our algorithm will search. So if it's saying, Peter Grant, 45 years old, 2 dogs and everything else, it's going to come back and say, that's not true. I've only got one dog. I'm joking, right? But the thing is, right, so you make sure it's factually correct. Their biggest complaints has been around poor journalism for not correctly reporting facts where they should be. But that's embedded into the workflow of the journalist and then pushes it to the CMS, the content management system. And that's really important in what we're doing. And we're doing lots of other things with them as well. It's really exciting. But that's a really good example of the training, of supporting them in their workflow process, right, and pushing it out to the CMS as well.
Yeah. And talk to me about differentiation. You mentioned it earlier. It's one of the biggest, most important things. We see it on the venture side now. There's consolidation happening, and companies that are not highly differentiated are not able to raise subsequent rounds, are not able to grow. And you're competing in one of the most, at least it sounds like, the most competitive markets. You're up against giants like Google and OpenAI. And
We are.
I'd love to hear how you're thinking about it and how you see it in the market too, through your role and also all of your advising for startups.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, we're generating tens of millions of ARR, but we want to generate billions. And if you look at the launch of OpenAI this week, the dev day they had, we said a few months ago, we want to get out the OpenAI blast radius. That blast radius went nuclear this week. If you look at what OpenAI are doing, and they're frenemies, right? Because we use their LLMs, right? We're 40 different large language models you can connect to with U.com.
Yeah.
However, I think the war you're seeing play out is back as we had in the 1990s, where you had the Mac and you had the Microsoft operating system. And everybody was basically Microsoft. And then up came Mac OS. And it was really cool and trendy. Only designers used it first of all. And now I don't know where they are market share-wise, but OpenAI is probably the Microsoft, if that makes sense, the analogy. Whether it's going to be Anthropic or whatever on the desktop side, I don't know who's going to win on the other side of that war. But it's not something we're going to do with the capital and everything else that we have. Yeah. So I think a couple of things. One is you got to look at what you're really, really good at. And if you look at the history of Brian and Richard, they were two of the original AI research scientists in large language models. Richard invented prompt engineering. Brian was the first to take an open source large language model and apply it to protein research in a lab.
Wow.
Yeah. This like 8 years ago or so. Richard invented prompt engineering. Richard has a patent pending for marrying a large language model to a web index, stop them hallucinating. But their real core skill is in search and providing highly accurate answers. So we're going to become more the AI search infrastructure layer for all of those agents that are being deployed. So we would see more of OpenAI and versus customers that we can really enrich those particular agents, right? So first you have your web index, but then you look at your vertical strategy, domain expertise that you have. So you go into like legal, you can go into healthcare, you can go into e-commerce is another really big driver. So anywhere where data's changing rapidly, that is designed for human search and not for LLMs, we want to change that, right? We want to make it available to the LLMs, get that conversational output, right? Much more unstructured data, but moving really rapidly, right? And then feed the agents. So whether you're a Salesforce or, as I say, a ChatGPT, you need to connect all different types of data, but you need to have a view on the outside world. And if you're domain specific, you need to be experts in knowledge in financial services, in trading, or whatever it may be. And that we see is there's less people operating there. It's a much harder problem to solve. You need quite a bit of capital, right? But you need a lot of search expertise, intent, understanding as well. And we have an amazing team that have followed Richard and Brian to do that. Yes, we're still going to do the private RAG stuff. So we think you're going to mix the private data in there as well. And everybody said they can do it, but the proof is in the pudding, what we call the final mile. It's actually really difficult to get really highly accurate results coming back. And that's why we get up and go to work every single day to provide accurate answers.
I love it. I love it. I know this is certainly not doing it justice by any means, but it almost feels like Google and OpenAI had a baby. And you're just playing this middle ground that is so, so valuable and needed.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's becoming even more pertinent in the speed it's moving at. I think people are going to start to realize that, and as you see more agents deployed, part of the vision is that we will manage agents. Zuck said this last year, right? But we generally believe that I'd probably have 30 or 40 agents that I use, whether it be writing OKRs, V2 MOMs, doing the interview process. I have one listening in to make sure there's no bias and score as well, to make sure that I haven't missed something, as an example. Obviously, you do your normal email stuff that you might have as doing your output, right? The research agents for us, account research, 10K agents, briefings before me, all sorts of stuff that deploys. It just makes me so much more productive and my sales team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got the company productivity that you're enabling with you.com, but I want to lean into your productivity now and your team's productivity, like you just talked about. Of you've got 30, 40 agents. That's a lot of agents. There's a lot of research that says, people can manage up to, I think it's about 12 agents right now, and eventually it'll be, 20, 30 and so forth. But it is that management part and minimizing hallucinations and so forth that is really challenging and providing the context continuously. How are you managing so many agents?
Well, I don't manage them all at once.
Okay.
Right. It depends on if you think about your day, what you do in your calls and everything else as well.
Yeah.
And the ones that I probably use the most are like the basic ones, like just recapping meetings, giving me notes and everything, doing my one-on-ones with my team, right? So, listening to the conversation is trained, what's your pipeline? What's your commit, right? What accounts is it coming from? And recapping what were the actions in this particular meeting and everything else, right? But just taking a step back. A normal salesperson only spends, believe it or not, 23% of their time actually talking to customers.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you could double that, that's 50% of their time, nearly. I know. And then you don't need to hire as many people, potentially. And that means the yield you can get from the salespeople is much more productive. Right, so that's really what we're sort of trying to do. We're a small startup, right? Doing it at scale, where you've got 10,000, 20,000 salespeople, that is a significant saving for organizations. And then it's a matter of training. And the other important thing is sharing agents amongst the team as well.
Okay.
Which you can do with you.com. So if you build a really cool agent, you can share it with everybody else. And suddenly everybody else becomes really productive. Right, so you have the learning curve that people go through, how to build an agent, what it can do, how to prompt correctly. So we even have an agent that builds prompts for us. So you call it prompt like a boss. So I just talk to you.com, but I don't have to type.
Yeah.
So you just talk to at speed, right? Give it personality. I need to do this, like V2 moms. Everyone's familiar with V2 moms, from Salesforce or OKRs, right? But every single quarter we rewrite them. That's the speed things are moving at, right? And we do it. I literally done mine in half an hour. It take days, right? As soon as I get it from the CEO, what the direction is, what number you want me to achieve, how many people I need to hire, right? What metrics I need to hit and everything else. I just told them all into the agent and bang, it gives them out. I cut and paste it, put it into Google Docs, send it back to the CEO, to Rich, and say, hey, you happy with these? Am I aligned with what you want me to do? Yes, and I deploy it to the team literally the same day. Right, that is a huge productivity saving from admin and everything else you may need to do. The other really important one is think about customer ideation. We didn't really talk about this earlier, but lots of people, we don't even know what this technology can do. We don't know how it can drive and transform people's businesses. So we now use Ari to help us. So if we're going to a certain customer in a certain vertical, let's take travel, hospitality, let's take a cruise line. Let's pick one up.
And just for everyone listening to, Ari is kind of like your equivalent of deep research, is my understanding.
I could say deep research is their equivalent of Ari, but yes.
There we go. I like it.
Yeah, so Ari stands for Advanced Research and Insights. It will go out to 1,000 websites in 5 minutes. It will do basically reasoning, chain of thought. You can change the prompts to make sure it's doing the searching for you correctly. It will read up to 1,000 websites. It will then say, these 1,000, 300-400 of them have a particular interest as sources for me. So it will bring back the whole website. Yeah, so not just a snippet and everything, but the whole citation with the snippets and everything else. And then it will start to do a generative output. And where it sees data or information, it will turn into charts and graphs as well for your report. And then it will put it into a PDF for you. So now you have it as like an analyst as a particular report. Right. So going back to my example, say with a cruise line, we're not experts in cruise line. But we may say, okay, how can generative AI impact the guest experience for a cruise line? Now, a cruise line has basically pre-booking. So when you're looking on the website, I want to go on a cruise, what I want to do. Now I booked it. Then it has pre-boarding. So now you've got a mobile app. And what do I need to know? I'm going to this particular country. Do I need to have my passport? What should I pack? And everything else as well. Then you have onboard. where you are. Now, how do I get to this particular restaurant? Where do I book this? If I want to eat sushi tonight, where is it on the ship? Now, some of these ships have 40 restaurants on them. They're absolutely huge. And then you have off-board, when you go and visit a location, I want an itinerary. What do I want to do today, right? And then you have post-board, when you've basically left the cruise, how do you therefore keep them as a customer? So in that instance, we used ARI to produce all the use cases. Now we can completely transform the user experience, the guest experience, and it gave us all the set use cases for that particular prospect that we're working with. And then when we went in, they think we're domain experts.
Yeah.
Right. And they think these guys really understand my business, and they brought innovative new ideas that can really drive our NPS, drive revenue for us, improve the customer experience, look at rebooking and everything else as well, and keep them in the mobile app. So one of the big issues they had, for example, was that 65% of all mobile engagements went to a human after the first search, because it's the old-fashioned blue link search that was coming through. Here it is, it's looking at their product information. It wasn't telling them, it wasn't having a conversation with them. And that's what we look at. You're having a conversation with your data now, and it's talking back to you. And that's so exciting, and how they can change things for customers. And that's a good example of how we use our own technology to do that, which accelerates the sales process. It differentiates us in the sales process. And there's some exciting announcements that will come in the not too distant future.
That's great. Well, we can't wait to hear them. And for startups, you've grown some incredible companies and taken companies through these growth stages and advised a lot of companies. How should companies think about differentiation overall as they're building? And maybe they don't have the same kind of data just at their disposal, but what creates differentiation now at the core, if you boil it down?
Yeah, I think, well, you've got to do something you're passionate about. I mean, everybody says this, right? And you've got to really, really understand it, where you're going to differentiate them. But I stole this from someone at Sequoia, because this is a common problem for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Stay focused on it and go really deep and be really, really good at it, right? And be able to articulate it really simply so everybody understands it, and hire people that will go on that mission and do it with you, whatever it may be, right? And go for it. But I think that's the main thing, right? You have to be really, really core on it and try and, it's obviously to try and do things that other people aren't doing. But there's another reason why they're not doing it, right? But the thing in this market, people are making markets for you. You don't have to spend all your time educating, right? You just have to spend your time executing better and providing a better quality product, and a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Go deeper, execute well.
Yeah. I mean, people go, well, duh. Obviously, but it's easiest to say from the outside, but it's harder on the inside to do. And it's
Incredibly hard.
Yeah, it is, right? And
like you said, one mishire can change the entire trajectory of execution.
It can, right? And I admire founders that stick to their core purpose, what they exist for, what they are going to do. Yeah, lots of people don't realize, back in the old days, Oracle nearly went bust like 3 times, as did Salesforce. Yeah, so especially Salesforce had quite a turbulent start for what it was doing. People didn't believe in it. You need to remember, back then, we were telling people, especially in Europe, go send their data to a data center in America, or the American government can look at it. Are you crazy? Right? I mean, that was just a complete mind shift for what people are having to do. But I think, going back to your question, I think people have that single purpose. They're going to solve that problem, whatever. I honestly stay core to your values there. Now, there are certain anomalies to that, like what we're seeing at OpenAI, and what they're doing is getting a bit harder. But then I would say, look at your go-to-market model. If you look at OpenAI, they also launched, they're going to do this $10 million consulting thing, like you'd expect an Accenture or McKinsey to do. They're 4 deployed engineers from Palantir and C3. There are only so many companies in the world that can afford to do that. That's what we realized at C3 very quickly. Tom used to say to me, Pierre, never walk away from a small deal, run. Now, he was focused very much on the Fortune 50.
Wow.
But I believe there's what I'm seeing with generative AI is there's lots of mid-market companies that are 1,000 to 5 or 10,000 employees, but their spend on AI is far superior than what I saw in CRM, or you might see in ERP, meaning that if you buy a CRM system, 40% of your total company may be licensed to use it. If you buy an ERP, was it 20% or something like that? I'm not too sure. I'm not an ERP guy. But what I'm seeing in generative AI is every employee is getting it, right? And every product is looking to be reinvented through generative AI. Like, think about your website experience, how you search for products on the web, or how you serve people up from a customer success point of view and everything else as well. So I think you can still make a really, really good business by focusing on one thing, but also focusing on one market area and one sizing as well. So vertical and sizing, and build your business from there, and then make that really successful and rapidly grow from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Super interesting. And with speed, like you said, just it continuously just becoming faster and faster. How do you think about your philosophy? You talk a lot about speed and truth at u.com.
Yep.
How does that feed into the equation of your go-to-market strategy?
So I think trust is a really important value. And I remember Benioff saying this in the early days, and I didn't really know what he meant. That sounds a really weird thing to say, because we have high levels of integrity and everything else, right? But, you've got to be trust in everything you do, what you say, your marketing, communication, how you salespeople, your delivery, the way you store data, your encryption, not talking about various things, and all those sorts of things, and everything else as well. When you're moving really quickly, it's sometimes hard. That's why you have to fall back on your values of what you're doing, and you need to educate people constantly the direction we're going, and bring those customers on the journey with you. In fact, the interesting thing is that customers can't move as fast as you often. Yeah, and the speed of change that you're doing. So we live in this bubble in the valley, right? We're the third largest economy in the world now, here in California. But you only need to go to New York or the Midwest, and even New York, they come here and they go, wow, I have no idea, the growth and everything else as well. And then they see the speed. They see on the 101, every poster is AI, for example. Like, oh my God, it's all happening here, right?
Get it?
So I think here it's not too difficult to articulate that message, but as soon as you move outside, you have to constantly keep reinforcing it, and the speed that we move at. I know culturally that we clash, not clash is the wrong word, but we find it difficult doing business in Europe at the moment because of some of the regulations they're putting in place with the EU AI Act, with the publishers saying don't crawl us anymore, and getting everybody to sign up to that. But the work ethic, it's just not in line with the speed the market and the change is moving at. And I'm not going to criticize them for that, but I'm just, as an observation, that I think is also important as well. So it goes back to your question about speed and what we're trying to do. This is a marathon run at a sprint, right? And this is an opportunity that we probably won't see in our lifetime ever again. So you just have to let people. Then it goes back to the hiring process. I say this is freaking chaos, right? I've never seen anything like it, and I freaking love it. Right? It is so much fun.
Yeah.
Right. But sometimes I feel like it's like, lions led by donkeys sometimes, because you think, God, we're chopping and changing all the time and everything else, right? We're trying to get product market fit. We're trying to get new customers on. We're trying to grow like everybody else is, like, go to $100 million in 9 months. Now we're only growing at half that rate. You're terrible and everything. Yeah. Duh. Look at the old SaaS days.
The standards have changed.
The standards have changed,
Yeah.
right? But you do, so going back, I think, so find people that can deal with that chaos, right? But people don't lose their values and everything else, right? They go to the core tenets that we have, as a business. Openness, transparency, trust is super important to us as well, and continually reinforcing that. And what we actually do, to answer your question specifically, so a long-winded answer, at the end of every single company call we have, we put our values on the screen, and then we do a kudos call out. Who has demonstrated these values in the company today? This week. Right, whether it be in front of a customer, whether it be a support engineer, whether it be somebody in finance, somebody in people operations. What have you done that shows urgency, trust, customer support, advocacy, etc.? Right, and we call those examples out to people, and it sounds a bit wokey, should we say, but it isn't, right? Because it's really important for the team to let them know they are living up by our values.
Definitely. And I'm sure that alignment creates speed too in itself.
It does. And the other thing Richard does really well is, we learned this from Marc, is at the beginning of every company call, we call out our B2 mom.
Okay.
What our focus is, what our KPIs are, what accounts we need to win, what we need to deliver, our accounts to make them successful as well. And there's no ambiguity. Yeah, and it seems repetitive. And I remember Tom Siebel doing this and thinking, been in 5 years, they do it every single quarter. But that's why he does it, right? To keep everybody on track. This is where we're going. There's no ambiguity, right? There's no what we're doing, why we're doing it, right? You know exactly where you're going as a business, right? Mark was really good at doing this, and Rich has adopted it now. And even our size company, 100 or so people now comment, now I understand what I'm here for, what my mission is, and where we're going.
Mm-hmm. And I have to give it a huge kudos to you because, like you said, you don't know excellent till you know excellent. And you have to hire excellent people. And you've worked for some of the largest legends in tech.
Yeah.
Now, Marc Benioff, Tom, like we talked about, Richard. So you are a reflection of that in yourself. You're instilling that in all the people that are under you. And you've also learned a lot from those three. We've talked about a few principles. Are there other key principles that you've learned under their leadership over time that now you implement that we haven't talked about yet?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. I think
Yeah.
I think belief as well. So I also work for Rishi Khosla. So Rishi's a very successful entrepreneur. He sold his first company for 600 million to Moody's. And then he built a bank, which is worth multi-billions now. And I ran the tech side of the bank as a president and COO for him. And Rishi's attention to detail, just like Tom, just like Mark, what he had was more speed. Bang, 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 right? And Rishi's more of a 6x6x9 culture. Sorry, 9x9x6 culture, right? So 6 days a week, 9 till 9. And, and he was the one that said, this is a marathon, run it a sprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Rishi would not have anybody negative around him, right? This is where we're going, right? And you get with it, and everything was positive, right? He always had a positive outlook. I never saw him lose his temper or anything, and he was highly intelligent. He really controlled that sort of narrative, and he's brilliant at articulating it. And he was good at getting into detail as well. Really good at getting into detail. In fact, I'd argue the three of them were like that. So Tom, absolutely, right? I mean, Tom gets right down into your emails, what you're doing, your contracts. I mean, I remember sitting in his office at 1 o'clock in the morning with a whole lot of SOWs to go out.
Yeah.
Right. Unless he could buy it, he would basically be the buyer. Unless he believed what you were doing or what the deliverable was, he knew he was going to get paid. There's no ambiguity. He had to go off and rewrite it, get it sorted and everything else. Yeah. Mark was legendary. You think Mark's very high level, but every now and then Mark will go into a deal, into your CRM, and go right down to your org chart. Why they're buying, where's the activity? That deal's been lost. Why haven't you got a forward activity in 3 months and everything else? And Rishi was the same as well with the detail, and he was very good. And Steve Garnett was the same. Taught me, if you had a problem, is don't just talk it out. Get on a whiteboard, start to draw it out and ideate what that particular problem is, and let's have a positive mindset to solve that particular problem. But yeah, I'd say, yeah, again, that detail, but also that enthusiasm, that positivity, there was that energy that he brought to the team, and then that solution, problem solving mindset. In fact, Tom, if you go to the C3 offices, lots of it's all the walls are glass that you can write on. Or the white walls are actually whiteboards.
Really?
Special covering on them.
Yeah.
So at any time you can just stand up and ideate and fix problems together. And that culture was another thing I learned. I thought it was really good.
That's great. Just a speed culture.
Yeah, it is. You
Iteration.
need to fix it, get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Doesn't need to be
the other thing actually reminds me of war rooms. So funny story. So I was in my exco one day and he said, where's your sales plan?
Yeah.
I said, what sales plan? I said, what do you mean you haven't got a sales plan? I said, it's in the CRM, Tom. I said, you are joking me. And I said, no. I need a sales plan, right? So get a sales plan. I want it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry, not tomorrow, next day. I walked out and I said, the head of strategy who worked for me, I said, you never told me I needed a sales plan. I was like new to the company. He said,
Right.
we've never done a sales plan. So, and my counterpart, poor Julian, was in Europe.
Yeah.
And he had to get an airplane then, literally that day, a fly to Redwood City. And we literally worked all through the night and everything else with the head of strategy. And we came up with the most amazing sales plans. So we literally got the whiteboard and we'd like slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And we built like part of the board deck, sales plan, go-to-market plan, marketing plan, everything we built and put together. But it's a speed we did it at like in 48 hours. Yeah, and then we presented it to Tom, did a few tweaks, and that became the execution, that became the blueprint and everything else. you see other people, you ask for something, and like 2 weeks later, you're still chasing for it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm putting into context, you have to prioritize it, but that was an important thing that we had to deliver that actually aligned all the go-to-market teams. Was in the CRM or in our heads. It wasn't in detail. It was a very, very detailed plan we put together.
Mm.
So that,
We-
sorry,
And-
a sense of urgency.
Yeah. We think about it on the investing side too, is how you run the process, is how you run everything, where it's indicative of it in a way. So your speed of executing in the process itself is demonstrative of how you're going to run your go-to-market experience.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing that's interesting about this market is that
Yeah.
we all have playbooks, but you can't necessarily bring your playbook into this market, if that makes sense. Like what has necessarily worked in the past is not going to work in the future. Lots of those things have gone out the window in your go-to-market models, and how you generate leads, for example, right? And
Yeah.
the old, I can't remember. I read it the other day, but the old thing about doing emails, ABN campaigns, and all that. And the problem is because agents and bots are doing it. Lots of people can read through it. You can see there are sequences have been auto-written by 11x or whatever, whatever it may be.
Right.
And you're not necessarily getting the traction, right? So we're actually going back to a lot of old-fashioned things, of basically going out to exhibitions, pressing the flesh, doing the dinners and stuff like that you used to do pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That we're finding those sorts of things that are working as well, right? Or creating communities of education because people don't know what it could do, and bringing different industries together and say, actually, how can we utilize this without sharing competitive information to do those sorts of things? I think you have to have a really open mind of what you can do and how you can change. And my fault has been in the past, I've been a bit too regimented. I've seen what's worked before, going to bring it, execute. But I don't think you can do that in this market. I think it's different, and you need to be open to change, right? And then agree that, but then ferociously execute like you used to before.
Can you give us an example of one of the things that you are doing right now that's working extremely well? The pendulum swinging back towards in person, a lot of just one-to-one, human-to-human interactions. But I'm curious what that looks like in practice for you.
Yeah, I think we are starting to attend a lot of industry events where people are going. So media is a big market for us. So I mentioned the Telegraph, we have Deutsche Press Association, we have Apotheke Umschau, we have a number of other ones I can't mention, but a lot of press associations we work with and other media titles. But we're in Italy back in April at Perugia. It's like the Davos for media. We were presenting there. We put a customer, as we've got them to do the presentation, but they were demoing agents for us and showing all the sorts of stuff that you can do with the technology. And that's where we picked up the Telegraph. I've got a guy in Poland right now who's at a Polish event. He was in Dublin last week at a media event. We're going to Paris at the end of the month. We find those type of events. We're meeting some people, are all talking, and we're making some really good traction doing those sorts of things. The other thing we're doing is we're going into some of our financial services companies doing lunch and learns.
Okay.
Right. So we're teaching them how to do deep research. We're teaching them how to do the prompting and stuff, because some of these traders, they will spend their time doing some of the training, shall we say.
Yeah.
So you got to walk the corridors and press the flesh with them and literally stand over their shoulder and show them how to do it. And some interesting use cases. They're a trading desk. They're doing research on pharmaceutical companies that are getting funded, getting patents, doing breakthroughs, etc. They're potential M&A targets for the bigger pharma companies. So they're using our research tool to basically go out and do all that information. But just being there in person with them as a guide to sort of help them is really good as well.
As part of an acquisition strategy or expansion? So
Yeah,
is this a
they're
net new
looking to
account?
acquire. So their bank is looking to put together deals for all
Yeah.
the big pharma companies to gobble up some of the smaller biotech
Right.
companies.
But they're not an existing customer yet.
They're customers of ours. Yeah, but they're not for them. Sorry, no, these are the trading parts of the bank.
Okay.
Yes, we're going into the bank who
Yeah.
are customers of ours, and we're teaching them how to use our research tool, right? Rather than just they bought it, sold it in the pre-sales, but we're actually going up there and doing lunch and learns to get more traction
Right.
with them and more usage of the product.
Yeah.
And that's generating more leads for us as well, going deeper into the bank, right? The
Mhm.
media event one is actually generating leads for us, and they're moving quite quickly. We just launched a webinar today, and we've already had like nearly 300 signups come to the webinar. It's a bit old school, but doing the webinar stuff. But I generally believe just being out there, the right targeted events with use cases for those particular verticals is helping us, right?
Mhm.
So the email stuff is not really working for us. SDR. We do use 11x to go out there and try and generate some leads for us. That's had some success in what we're doing. We have an SDR. She's done really well. I think also you need having an amazing website. That we haven't had in the past. That we're cleaning that up, and we're seeing a much bigger lead flow. And then goes back to your messaging, your clarity, what your mission is, what do you stand for, and everything else as well. So we're not perfect by any far stretch of the imagination, but we're getting better and better at those things.
Well, it's interesting to hear what's working and what's not. It sounds like the common thread amongst all those is thought leadership and enablement and really helping people get better and solve their problems.
Well, actually, what we do is we put our founders at the center of everything.
Wow.
Because of who they are. Because
I was going to say, you've created.
We're very lucky, right? So because there are so many people that are out there, right? But there aren't that many Richard Sochas and Brian McCanns. If you look at the brain drain between OpenAI, Apple, and Meta and everybody else, right? They're on that path. There's only a handful of them in the world, and we're lucky to have them as an asset. So it's having that asset now working on your account with you. Yeah, and we expose the founders, to all our accounts and customers. They meet with them and everything else. They go to their board meetings and stuff, and that gives us great thought leadership, makes them look good on their side as well, and helps with the partnership.
I love it. And I'm curious about your learning. So obviously you're learning in terms of product utilization. How are you personally learning about AI outside of you.com? Any favorite resources?
I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn, for example. I watch a lot of YouTube. I mean, it's interesting, right? So you go back to recruiting, you've got to have this appetite and passion to learn. Wasn't my forte at school, if I'm honest with you. It was more sporty. But I remember joining Siebel, and this is pre YouTube, that God, I do so much reading, and try and retain the information and all this client service, CRM stuff. I know it sounds really basic now. But I was lucky when I went to C3, I put the first boot camp in place and had these amazing people that worked for me on the enablement side, and had all the data scientists come in. So we understood all the different forms of AI and machine learning, computer vision, and entity recognition, etc. What an ROC curve was, what precision and recall is. We tested everybody on it. So you had to have that good foundation, and then in keeping up to speed on I watch everything on YouTube. I spend all my time laying in the bath watching it, on my bike listening to podcasts, so whatever it may be, just to try and keep me up to speed. And the other thing I do is I spend a lot of time with Richard and Brian, and because they're two thought leaders. When they're often going out there talking, they're not talking about necessarily you.com and our use cases. They're more about the future of LLMs and hallucinations and the meaning of work and how it's going to change the world and all those sorts of things, and what they think some of the breakthrough technologies are going to be. That's a massive learning. I said to Richard, I don't know how you do it. You run you.com, you run a venture fund, you're writing a book at the moment, you're the third most cited research scientist in the world for NLP, and you appear on all these forums and everything else, and you've got such a depth of knowledge. You're just an amazing human being. So just if you find people that are super, super smart and attach myself to them, and if I can pick up 10% of what they know, then I think I'm onto pretty good innings.
I'd say so too. And what about books? Do you still read many books, or have there been any impactful books in particular on your career?
So I like Lucas when he wrote Who Said It, Elephants Can't Dance. That was many, many years ago, the IBM one. Transforming there. Obviously, I loved Horowitz. Was it The Hard Things About the Really Hard Things, which I think was a really good book that's written there. And then we started reading like the master algorithm as well, about having all the different 5 algorithms. You have one master algorithm that could solve literally every single sort of problem in the world. I did get into Blink lists for a while.
Oh, yeah.
When I was traveling, going up and down.
Blinkist? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got into that a little bit too.
Yeah, when I was going up and down the 101, stuck in the traffic or in the gym and everything else. But to be honest with you, I'd move to YouTube. Yeah. And then I will go into you.com and I say, can you give me a summary of this book and the main talking points and learnings from it? And I would do that.
Do you find you retain the same amount? Like I found when I got into Blinkist, I couldn't retain it the same from the long form.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think no is probably the short answer to that. Most books I read are actually special forces books. because I read about people do extraordinary things and challenges, because it is startup is really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Like really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I admire any founder that one attempts it, the second is successful. 90% are going to fail. Like, it's just like special forces selection.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are going to fail, right? And unlike normal military, special forces, no one's shouting at you. No one's telling you what to do and everything else. Like, turn up here tomorrow morning at 4:30 a.m. The wake up, it's pouring with rain. It's cold outside. Where's the motivation? It's got to come from within. That you want to go and do that. So I like reading those things, those extraordinary stories that people have done. And I like to apply it in just the culture, the philosophy of what we're trying to do, and making the people that get in feel really, really, really special to be there, and then trying to make them really successful.
I love it. Great recommendations. All those will be in the show notes. And I have to ask you, because a common thread has been just the absolute sheer hard work it takes to truly build a generational company. And it is true. And I know you are working incredibly hard at you to do this right now. What are your thoughts on 996?
Disenfranchise myself here from a lot of people.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. So
I know.
over to you.
It's like, it's almost like you don't have to say it.
Mhm.
If you have a really clear purpose and mission that you want to achieve, then people will naturally dive out of bed at 5:30 in the morning and have to be dragged by their partner kicking and screaming from their desk or whatever it may be to stop work in the evening to spend some time with the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's not the right thing to probably say and advocate for, because you do need a good work-life balance. But, an old boss of mine used to say sleep is for the afterlife. But the reality is, right, I'm just talking about in our bubble,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's going to create immense wealth. But that's not how I do it. I do it because I love being part of a team that's invoking change that affects other people's business to make them more successful. That's the real goal. I love building things.
Yeah.
Right. And that is so exciting. I'm an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. I'm much better at taking other people's ideas and executing, operationalizing them.
You've done it over 4 times.
Yeah, it's not just me.
Exactly.
It's a whole team. It's not. I'm
Yeah.
part of a team,
Yeah.
right? So you take praise from the back and criticism from the front. It's so important from a team point of view. I've just been very lucky. Not everything's worked I've done, but I've just been very lucky to attach myself to some very, very smart people that have been really successful and ride with them. But yeah, I've learned so much on that journey, and all I'm applying it now, and I try and pass down that knowledge as well to other people as well. But going back to the cop, none of us did it easily.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
No easy day. Another great book, a special forces book. No easy day, right? But there is no easy day in what we do. And I look at one of my mentors, a guy called Steve Garnett, Dr. Steve Garnett, doctor of nuclear physics. He was employee number 20 at Oracle in Europe. He was the same at Salesforce, Siebel, excuse me. And I met him at Siebel, and he took me under his wing as a baby sales rep and seemed to like me. And he thought he could mold me, and very different backgrounds, but he's the most humble, intelligent, nicest, ethical person I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Now one of my best friends. But his work ethic is what I remember. He was running Europe and I was in the UK, and he'd be up at 4:30 to go to Heathrow to get an airplane to go somewhere and then back. And he was just phenomenal work ethic. And every time I look in the mirror, that's what I want to be. Like, I want to be, but you can't say I want to be like, you have to be driven by the mission that you're on to do it. So if you haven't got people that understand that, I do explain to the younger generation in the company, I've never seen this opportunity in my life. Don't take it for granted, because you do not want to get to the end of your tenureship and failed and go, I wish I tried harder. I wish I'd done this, right? So give it all you've got if you believe in it.
Yeah.
Right. And then it becomes natural, right? So would I mandate going in on a Saturday? Not necessarily. Do I work on a Saturday? Yes. On a Sunday, whatever. But I do it because I love it. I do it's the right thing for the business.
I love it. I love it. I feel the same way. As you shouldn't have to mandate it. It should just be out of passion.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how you find those people and you run with them.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't covered? Just off line here for a minute. Take a beat.
I don't think so. I think I think that the important thing, I think, is the learnings is key, right? It's the people want to invest in themselves, right? And people that, yeah, I would say if I was starting all over again, I was very lucky to meet Steve.
How did you meet?
So I joined Siebel.
Oh,
He was head of EMEA.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was a sales guy, and I was like one of the top sales guys in the company. So the first thing I did when I joined Siebel is there were 3 salespeople that were like the big guys doing the big multi-million-dollar deals.
Yeah.
And I'm so competitive. I wanted to beat them. I wanted to be one of them. John Anstey's no longer with us, unfortunately, but Steve Miller. And I basically befriended them. So even though I was a baby rep, when they were more senior to me, went to the bar, got to know them, and I just peppered them with questions. What does it take to be like you, be successful? What do I need to do? And everything else as well. And I went on to be the top sales guy in Europe for Siebel 1 year. But Steve Garnett saw me, and he was running Europe. He's running partnerships, and he plucked me out to go and do a specific job for him. That job wasn't right for me. It's partnerships, and I was disenfranchised from the end customer, and I found that hard to do. It wasn't my skill set. But what it taught me is this: having a mentor was so important to keep me on the straight and narrow, my compass for success, I guess. And that's what I look for now, and that's what I try and pass down to. So the people coming through now, go and find someone that's exceptional, someone that's been there, right? Someone has got that proven track record, right? And be a sponge to them, right? Be subservient to them. Go in there and learn as much as you can, as fast as you can, right? To take it on. And now I have engineers coming to me and younger people that want to be entrepreneurs, even at you.com. And you shouldn't be worried about that, right? You think it's great. If you want to go set your own company up one day, I'll pass all my knowledge, all my workings and everything else on to you because it got passed on to me. It's not my IP.
Paying it forward.
You're paying it forward, right? And then if that person can go on and be successful, that is so rewarding for what you do. So yeah, I would say to a lot of people, like, find some really, really, really good mentors. And if you're young founders, definitely find some really good CEO mentors that have been there, built it, been through the hard yards that you've done, because it's really tough. I've been a CEO. It's really lonely. It's really tough. And that's why I think we're talking off camera, but I'm a go-to-market advisor for Broadwave.
Yeah.
So Broadwave is a digital version, I guess, of different groups you have in Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley is 40 square miles roughly. It's the 3rd largest economy in the whole of California, but especially a lot of that comes here from Silicon Valley. But we have a great culture of sharing meetups, CRO meetups, CEO meet, whatever it may be, right? Just helping the VCs you lead this, right, is really, really cool. You don't have that in Europe.
Really?
Yeah, you don't. And a lot of it's because it's fragmented, different languages, different cultures, and everything else. So Phil Robinson is another great friend and mentor. He set up Broadwave a number of years ago with this vision to be, how could we be like the Valley and bring people together and have these sharings, basically. And took, a lot of older people, grey-haired white males like me and females, right? They basically say, how can you help this? 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and everything else coming through. And that's been really rewarding. We do podcasts, they do meetups. They just had their 3rd big annual meet. Flew Brian over there last year. We get more licenses to help them. They're coming on Silicon Valley tours.
Amazing.
There's all those sorts of things, right? So anything you can do help to pay forward, as you say. But the important thing is you've got to be coachable. You've got to be, recipient to it. These people have been there. They've done it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you have your own way, but don't think you can do it alone.
No, never. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
As we say, as you've just said. Absorb from those who have been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And where can people find you? You're advising startups through Broadwave. You are leading at you.
Yeah, my whole focus now is on you.com. Okay, that's what I was doing before I joined you.com. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. They can find me there. But everything I do right now is you.com. If you're on you.com, come and see me, Peter at you.com. But I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're interested in bringing generative AI to your business.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Peter.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Likewise.